Hello and welcome to the first of what is likely going to be a long series of videos covering the latest releases of Star Citizen and maybe even other games called What's in the Patch, where I break down everything released in the latest patch release and the broader context of what this means. Now it's important to note that this is just 3.19 Wave 1 PTU. Things can and will be added and removed as the PTU goes along. So if you're seeing this after the fact, I will link the next wave's video in the top right for the most up-to-date coverage. As always, if you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to like the video, subscribe, and be sure to let me know if you want me to keep doing this kind of content. That being said, let's figure out what's in the patch for Star Citizen 3.19 Wave 1 PTU. To start with a surprising change, which I wasn't expecting, they added the guide system to the game, kind of. They added a button to the main menu of the game which will take you to the guide system on their website. This is not nearly enough to actually do what myself and many others have been pushing for, add the guide system into the game, but it's a start to at least let new players know that the system exists in some way other than forcing them to brave the toxic swamp that is Spectrum. Next, in another interesting addition, there's a new overlay HUD which displays various buttons and what they do when it comes to interactions with specific objects. This is apparently driven as part of the new player experience that is releasing with 3.19. Talking with my contacts at CIG, they said that the team behind the new interaction system, which is being made for Squadron 42, is also involved in the NPE, though this was the product of the HUD team, and there's something like 9 teams working on the NPE, so there's a lot of crossover with other parts of the game. This leads us to the next addition to 3.19 Wave 1, the new player experience. Now, the new player experience is an initiative for improving the initial first 30 minutes of gameplay experience, which will help players understand the context of the world and introduce them to some of Star Citizen's basic features. This focuses on the experience of Area 18 and Bajini Point to coincide with the new signage. As players enter the main menu to join the universe, they'll be prompted with an option to join as normal or accept the new player experience mission, which will then spawn them at Area 18 and begin the walkthrough. This new player experience is pretty good, though very light on the lore and heavy on the reading, but that doesn't mean it's not good. It's still pretty good for those of you who are brand new to the verse, and it'll be interesting to see this evolve over time. The next addition was a major one: clouds. Not only do we now have clouds in ArcCorp, but brand new cloud tech added to the clouds in game. The clouds were a surprising addition to ArcCorp, but if you've been following my read-throughs of the monthly reports, the new cloud system has been something they've been working on for a bit, and this isn't even their final form. Now that Gen 12 is in the game, these along with other visual features are getting larger overhauls, including asteroids, though that's not in 3.19. They look much better now and add a lot of life to all the planets. Area 18 has gotten a glow up as well, with the ASOP terminals moved closer to the hangar elevators and new signage put up as part of the new player experience to improve ease of navigation. This also coincides with new brand ads being added to Lorville, which will expand in future patches. One of the more controversial additions is an increase in claim timers. These have gone up significantly, especially for larger ships. For example, it seems the reclaim timer for the Carrack has gone up to over an hour. This has been mentioned in the past as something they were going to do in order to encourage players to tow their ships back to get repaired. However, that is strange because ship tractor beams and the SRV aren't in 3.19 Wave 1, or even planned to be in 3.19, so this change doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Personally, I like the change as it is inevitably going to happen, and giving more consequences to your decisions will always be a painful experience, regardless if there's bugs or not. CIG treating it like a band-aid that needs to be removed by just ripping it off is something I understand. However, I know this may kill the desire to log in for many people, as it is inevitable that everyone will have a feels bad moment when a ship you use gets bugged out, and now you won't get it back for over an hour. It's important to remind y'all that before you break out your pitchforks and storm the Bastille, changes like this can and often do get rolled back if they cause too many issues. No matter what, I'll keep you in the loop for future changes. One of the bigger additions to 3.19 is Salvage contracts. This adds a new contract called the Salvage Resource Rush, a mission where a faction or mission giver requests the scrapping of a derelict or husk in their possession, either on the ground at a junkyard or in space in a debris field. Players accepting the mission are tasked with scrapping the derelict to the best of their ability and sell the RCM to a shop. Once the player is finished with the scrapping of the derelict, they can complete the mission on their Mobiglass. This mission will have 3 variants. Lawful. A lawful mission giver organization requests the scrapping of a derelict. The location is secured by an organization with orbital sentries or centurions. Lawless. A mission giver requests the scrapping of a derelict. The location is not secured in any way. Risk of being raided by pirates is present. And unlawful. An unlawful mission giver or organization asks for the salvage of a recent battle, which is not accessible to civilians / cordoned off. The location is secured by hostile orbital sentries or centurions. Overall, this is a new type of mission module, the Resource Rush, that will be used to make similar mining missions in the future, thus adding to the variety of missions that are quickly becoming one of the defining additions of Star Citizen in 2023. It's also interesting that this is a stealth insertion of NPC ground vehicles by adding Centurions to the mission. All in all, it's a good sign for 3.20 later this year. Speaking of missions, 3.19 also brings out a new event-style mission with the Ghost Hollow Reclaimer PvP mission. This is similar to the Korea mission and seems to be where the events teams have been moving to. This takes place in the Reclaimer Ghost Hollow crash site and makes use of comm arrays as well as AI nav mesh. Players will need to fight for control over terminals for a chance at big credits payouts. This is a mission with the Outlaw UEC terminals in the Reclaimer Derelict. When active, they generate UEC to anyone who can withdraw, creating PvP encounters between players trying to control the terminals, which are also guarded by Outlaw AI. To start the terminals, the comm arrays must be disabled. If that's done, the terminals can be activated in the tower next to the derelict ship. A Mobiglass communication is sent to all nearby players, which can be accepted as a mission. Now, this mission is not ready for feedback and testing in 3.19 Wave 1, so it might be a little buggy or unfinished as of now, but keep an eye on the mission for the future if you want to try yourself a mini Jumptown experience. Next up is the much-hyped Lorville Skyline 2.0. This is a major reworking of the Lorville Skyline to better fit the scale of the city and its distinctive buildings. The goal is to create a visual identity of the high-end, low-end, and generic branding of the city's skyline, and add navigational signage around the landing zone. However, the actual landing areas we're used to remain the same. The train lines have changed, as well as rooftops being more open to missions and players now, likely in anticipation of procedural building interiors, which is currently being worked on. This feature is one that snuck up on all of us quite quickly: the tractor beam item attaching and detaching. This is noted as Tractor Beam 0.5 and isn't the final implementation of the feature. That being said, this enables handheld tractor beams to attach and detach items such as ship components and allows players to use those salvaged items for profit. This iteration of the tractor beam gameplay adds the functionality to the tractor beam attachment of the multi-tool to detach and attach items from ship item ports. The functionality can be used for component exchange, replacement, or restocking, or to scavenge other ships to use to make a profit. Players can lock and unlock the ability to remove weapons and components from their ship with a new port unlock option in the inner thought, which is in the cockpit, or using the new port unlock keybind, which, as of this moment, is bound to a specific T by default. To use this, make sure you have your tractor beam attachment in your multi-tool, and while aiming it at a component, hold B. This will highlight the object with a glow around its perimeter/shape. Left click and drag to pull the component loose from the socket/hardpoint. While attaching components, the AR marker will appear to give players guidance on the correct orientation to attach the component correctly. If the hollow outline is green, simply let go of the item and it will attach. If the hollow outline is yellow, rotate the item until the outline turns green. If the hollow outline is red, the item does not fit in the item port requirements. A stealth addition to this feature is the long-desired removable saddlebags of mining ships. While I know that you can now remove the bags, we don't know exactly what this will allow you to do in 3.19. In theory, you can now have large mining operations where someone can detach the bags holding the ore, replace them with empty bags, and carry the full ones back in cargo ships to be refined, thus no longer requiring miners to make the trips themselves and increasing the efficiency of group mining efforts. At this point though, that's just theory and no real substance. We'll have to wait and see for more testing to see if this is possible. Another consequence of this addition is that weapons, missiles, and components are salvageable from ships within certain size limitations. It's important to note that if you salvage a component and replace a component on your ship with one of these salvage components, If your ship explodes, then that item is gone with it. Insurance still covers purchased items, but for now, not salvaged ones. Another issue is that these items don't actually register as cargo, apparently. While this may be a bug, it's been reported that you may not be able to actually sell these items, though there is a way that you can attach these items to your item ports, go to a landing zone, remove these items from the item ports using the normal ship systems, and it should be added into your local inventory. A couple of people in my Discord did try this, and they were able to sell salvaged weaponry through this trick, but it's a complicated process. It's not the normal go to the terminals and find it in the inventory of the ship and then sell it. That doesn't seem to work. The next change is a bit of a relief, honestly. They updated the density manager system so that mission entities and things dropped by missions such as corpses, guns, and debris will be cleaned up when the area is streamed out. As they reuse mission locations such as UGFs, the location will be cleaned up of all mission items when the area is streamed out, while player dropped items will remain as usual. This is a good thing because it cleans out random drop stuff from missions, which likely taxed the back end and caused many issues with server stability. They're going to need to implement something like this eventually, so it's a good hack until they come up with a more permanent solution. They also reduced/rebalanced the amount of ship weapons, missiles, and ship components that are currently sold at rest drops and LEOs. This means that some items may not be purchasable anymore or simply cost more, though without further testing it's hard to determine exactly what this means. Lastly, they added the Corsair, Cutter, and C8R Pisces to in-game shops, finally bringing the last few vehicles of 2022 into the PU for everyone to pick up. As I said at the beginning, this is just the start of the PTU phase for 3.19. I'll be covering each wave to get better understanding of what's in the patch and what will make it to the final release of 3.19. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching and let me know if this is helpful for you and what else you'd like me to see or do in the comments below. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.